fellow YouTubers. I was kind of gifted into a wonderful uh, holiday project. My son was given a Hot Wheels, whatever you would call it, little track that mounts to the wall. And it mounts via these little sticky strips. And unfortunately, at this household, we have textured walls, so that did not work too well. So, as a way to make it work without actually having to mount it to a wall, which I'm not putting 5 holes in the wall for that, I decided to mount it to our Lego table. And it's just a real simple, I don't know, even know what you would call it. Just got a Lego top on it and Lego storage below. You'll see what it is, and it turned out really nice. So hopefully you like the video, and if you've got textured walls, hopefully it works out in your house too. Thanks.
Right, so here it is in its glory. Normally this would be mounted to a nice untextured wall with these double-sided stick tape, and it attached right here, right there, and in one other spot. And then this is just basically like a poster with holes cut out, and makes the whole thing look awesome. Your kids will love this thing if they get it. But if you're like me, it ain't working on a wall. So my idea was to take a piece of wood like this, cut it to match that, Mod Podge it on there, and then put a few boards on the back, and it's going to get mounted to our Lego table. I'll show you a little picture of that. And then my son will have access to it at all times. No having to hang it on the wall. Of course, the first step in any project is cleaning up all the mess. Thankfully, YouTube has made a magic. That was fast. All right, so I just threw another little piece of wood on there, try and get the poster to spread out as much as possible because it tends to bunch up around those fold lines. And then I'm just gonna draw a pencil line all the way around the outer edge. And as I cut, I'm gonna set the saw blade to actually chew up that pencil line too. And then once I'm Mod Podging the whole thing, I'm just gonna round it over the edges, so it looks a little bit nicer and neater, and it'll cover up the areas where I did not maybe cut as straight or whatnot. All right, so I have it actually cut out here, and I only had one little challenge there where it took a little nick out of the board. I'll point it out a little later. And then this is a tip right here where when I always seem to run out of cups that I can just use disposably. And what I do is I take a good quality bag. You could use a grocery bag, but you risk there being little holes in it and whatnot. And I'll tuck it inside of the bag and then push it down into the center. And then you could also put like a rubber band around the outer edge and really get it to stay there. And then I'll pour the Mod Podge into there. And the beautiful thing is, who doesn't have all these cheapo bags rolling around? And you can do this for anything. If you want to pour out a bunch of paint or anything like that, as soon as you're done, you just slowly pull the bag off, turn it inside out, throw it in your garbage can, and you're done. Really is pretty slick. Don't know how I thought of it. All right, so now we're ready to paint. You can see that little ding there in the bottom right corner that got dinged out of the wood. I just put that down towards the bottom of the project, closest to the table, and honestly, I couldn't see it when it was all done. Thing about the Mod Podge is you got to paint it on pretty quick because it cures pretty fast. I'm showing that there's little ripples in the whole thing, and once this poster gets wet, it tends to have little bubbles. I honestly think I could have really benefited from an extra set of hands while I was doing this, because you can shift it a little bit, but when you're doing it like that, it's shifting the bubbles from one area to another. And if I'd have had somebody else just laying it there slowly and I just use a roller, I think I would have had a slightly better result. But in the end, it still really turned out nice. So note about these two is if you get those little yellow tabs screwed in, with the same orientation that they are on there, the track itself is pretty flexible. It has the ability to move in a little bit, move in and out and contract and still work. I got the Mod Podge down, got the whole thing done, and then my wife came down and told me, hey, you got to Mod Podge to the top too. You can't just do a coat underneath. So she came down and helped me out and Mod Podge that top. And here I'm showing off the stock that I use to screw to the table, and I think it was 3/4 inch pine. It was good quality pine. It matched the colors of the table pretty closely right there. And what I do is I think a little later on I measure them, but I think they're 22 inches long. And I wanted to go at least halfway up the back of the board and far enough down so that the whole thing did not become top heavy. And yeah, here it is right here. That is the distribution that I chose. And it ended up working beautifully. All it took was 3 screws, and the whole thing was very, very secure. No problems whatsoever. I used, I believe it was a 30-second drill bit for the pilot. And here's how I clamped it. I always typically clamp it with a spring clamp just because they're so quick, and then I'll use those quick clamps as the permanent clamps. The beautiful thing about those clamps is you can rotate them up or down a little bit to get them out of the way as you need to make space for drilling and screwing. So with everything having dried off, I then screwed all of these to the wooden backboard. And then on the back side, just to give everything a little more grab, I did put little blanks of wood, just so everything's got a little more support the whole way. Now the next step will just be mounting it to that. Here we are with my assistant. We're gonna see if this thing works, if it keeps shooting the car around or what it's doing. Okay. Hit it, Jer. Hallelujah. Working like a charm. Awesome. Here is the back of the table, and here's the front. It is finished now. The only other thing that I have to do yet is I'm going to take these where the screws poking through over here. Those will all be hacked off and or filed off. I'll take one last picture in its place. Here it is in its place, and my lovely wife is going to test it out. Go ahead, honey. Boom. Hope you enjoyed watching. If you loved it, like and subscribe. Thank you.